All right, good afternoon. I call to order this regular meeting of the Carrabelle Community Redevelopment Agency. It's Tuesday, November the 15th, 2022 at 1:31 p.m. and we're conducting this meeting in the Carrabelle City Hall chambers. Commissioner Calvin Allen will say our prayer for us, and then I will lead the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
Our God and Father in heaven, we're so grateful that we have the opportunity to come together and serve our community. We ask you to be with us that we might use all wisdom and do that which would be right in your sight and would be best for our lovely citizens. And we ask this in the name of the Son that you sent us. In his name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, good afternoon. Thank you all for silencing your phones. And Ms. Keisha, would you please call the roll?
Chase Chisholm.
Here.
Commissioner Brown.
Here.
Commissioner Allen.
Here.
Mayor LaPaz.
Here.
Commissioner Walden.
Here.
Commissioner Millender.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much. And next on the agenda is the October 18, 2022 CRA regular meeting minutes. And did everyone have a chance to review that? We had one motion on those minutes. Do we have a chance to review that one motion? Make sure it was correct?
The approval of the minutes?
Yeah.
Motion to approve.
Okay. All right, we have that motion by Commissioner Millender to approve. Any second?
I'll second.
Who's second?
I heard Brown.
Okay. All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Is there any public comment? Do we have public comment? Public comment on any item that's not on the agenda today? Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to staff reports and our CRA director, Ms. Courtney Dempsey.
I have emailed with Duke Energy on the redesign and communications for the alley wiring, but I have not heard anything back. And then we reported last month that they had flagged some stuff, and I did email Danny Collins last week, and I have no response.
I say something. They were out there and they had a big machine set up right in the alley in my carport, and they said they were fixing it all, and then they came out later and they hadn't done anything. So they were there, but maybe something happened, they had to leave.
I'll continue to follow up with Duke Energy.
All right, thank y'all for those reports. And then
I had Dustin consult with the FWC biologist on putting the grass-eating carp in the Sands Park pond, and he says that we can do it, but that they do not recommend it. He says that all they do is eat, and once they eat all the vegetation, then they'll just keep eating, and it'll just be mush. Muck.
As he said.
So he says they do not recommend it, but they have a group with the FWC that goes around and looks at ponds, and he's gonna send him over here to look at our ponds.
So we're talking for that,
The one, Dustin talked to the man and he can answer.
yeah, they do ponds in Tallahassee and around this area, so we're trying to get them down here. Hopefully he'll come out and meet with me.
I just have one comment. I think that's good for Dustin to consult again with FWC and giving us some professional guidance. From experience, from what I've had, not directly, because I don't own ponds, but we have put carp, and I know of other people that have, and they do when they finish the grass. But the normal practice that I've been accustomed to is when the carp have cleaned the pond, you net the carp and remove it.
He said that was very difficult.
Yeah. We found it pretty easy in Alabama.
He said with the size of the pond, it would be difficult to.
The depth of the pond too, it's a lot deeper than what you would think. The lily pads really give it kind of a false shallow, but that thing is probably in some spots 15 foot. Right off that pier, easy. We was trying to touch with a 12-foot pole no bottom.
Good.
All right.
That's what they said. The HR committee continues to develop the CRA district maintenance job description. I did send that out for all of you guys to read as the city commission. The commission will approve that job description.
Okay, do you have anything else?
I do, actually. I got an email right at lunchtime from Mr. Bo May, and he's wanting to change out the plants and the planters in front of Rio, Carrabelle, and the Shop by the Sea. And he even suggests, he wants to change out the plants, but he's also thinking about maybe having Planet Green come and upgrade the plantings. And I'm fine with that, other than I just don't want something really different than what we've got in the rest of our downtown area. So I don't know how y'all feel about that.
They do get really big on that corner, and it's so hard to see around it, but I know before he didn't want us to cut them, but you can't see around either side. So I think we need to cut them or plant something smaller.
And I'm fine with planting something smaller, I just don't want it to be so different that when you ride downtown and that stands out as being different
I
than the
think
other
we'd have to
landscape.
redo both sides of the street. If we did one, it should match.
I don't know, I mean, is he wanting to do it, or does he want the
He
city
says-
to do it? I mean, the CRA.
We've been discussing plants, et cetera, in front of the buildings, including Shop by the Sea. Needs trim and weeding and possibly change out some plants, which we talked about trimming that up. Can the maintenance man stop by for a talk? Also thinking about having Planet Green upgrade our plantings, is this permissible?
I'm with you, Mayor. I was thinking the same thing. And it's just a thought real quick, because I haven't given it any thought, but
I would think if you
if a
had,
business owner wanted to take the expense and get an approved concept, if you will, from this board, and take the responsibility of the maintenance and the care, that would be wonderful. And diversity on the plants would be nice as long as they're conducive, and that's the reason why I say I think they should come to the board. Yeah. But that's a thought, yeah.
But the plants that are out there now were funded through a grant, a beautification grant.
Right.
And, yeah, I can understand that they need to be cut. They need to be cut, and they haven't been properly maintained, like professional landscaping needs to be maintained. So if they need to be cut back now, don't know if it's the right time of the year or whatever, but maybe that needs to be done for safety's sake. Actually, all along there's areas. I asked in the middle of the summer for some crepe myrtles, the limbs that are coming out off the main tree trunk to be cut back, and they're still there because you can't see when you're trying to pull out, and that's never happened. So, but I'm like Commissioner Millender. If Mr. May wants to go to Planet Green and get a plan, a conceptual, and how he wants to put plants in there. Otherwise, I would suggest
and what
that
he's
we-
putting in.
Yeah, that we continue to maintain, if we can get it maintained, the plants that were put in with grant funding.
Okay.
But I do agree they get high, pretty high, quickly, some way, somehow. I know for about a year, Mr. Shop by the Sea, Gordy Harris, he was doing all the weeding out there in front of his area and taking care. He put a couple of little pansies or whatever, some perennials, but, all right, okay. Thank
So
you.
I have
Just ask him to come by and with a plan for
Okay.
us. Thanks. Is that all right, y'all?
That's cool.
Okay. All right, and then we go next to Mr. Hartman, our attorney, and he's absent. So, Courtney?
We sent out the draft plan update earlier during the month. We received back comments from the mayor, and we've made those changes. And if no one else has any comments, then says that the CRA should vote to send it to the commission for approval. So that if no one has any other changes to make to it and it all looks good, I need you guys to have a motion to send it.
I think it was
It
after
was right the last
the
meeting.
last meeting, this
I
last
think I
meeting.
did it during the meeting,
During the
actually.
meeting.
And the one thing that I changed, the main thing that I sent back was to remove the promotions that we would give grants for, promotional grants to nonprofits. I took that out. And I asked him to review it for the words may versus shall, you know, to make anything that could be may, to remove shall and make it may. Otherwise, I think that was it.
Yeah, they were very minor, but he said if everybody's good with it, that's the next step in the process, is to send it to the city commission.
And we also, and I made mention in my email that we have a promotional grants brochure or criteria, and maybe we need to, I don't know if the proper way would be just to dissolve that or just not use it anymore. You know, I'm not real sure how Mr. Hartman would. I think that might be online, and if it is online on the website, then
I
that
think
needs
it
to be.
is, we do need to
take
have it
that-
removed.
Yeah, take that down. Is there any other comment?
I'll make a motion to send it to the regular commission with corrections made.
I'll second it.
Okay, and that was a motion to send the plan, updated plan to the commission for approval was by Commissioner Millender, second by Commissioner, Ms. Chisholm. All right, and that would be done by ordinance on the regular commission side?
Yes, I believe so.
And that'd be 2 public hearings for public record. Is there any other discussion? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? And that motion carries. Okay, and then we have a CRA district and landscape maintenance report, of which we have none, and we kind of just had a little discussion. Do we have any other comments regarding, do we need anything done that Ms. Courtney can send to Mr. Messer in this transition period?
Well, a couple things. One was what you mentioned, Mayor. December, beginning of December is usually the dormant time for pruning of certain species. All species aren't, but certain species. And I think the crepe myrtles is one that is. And if it's appropriate, we'll go ahead and direct him to do some of that. And
The roses too.
excuse me?
The roses?
Yeah. Go ahead and direct some of that work, and also look at those flower, those planting areas that was described at 67 and 98. And if we can do some appropriate pruning there, and go ahead and do that.
Just some, general pruning
Yeah.
of the roses, crepe myrtles, and any plants that are blocking the line of sight
That's right.
coming out on 98 there.
And we do have holiday on the market coming up December 10th, so it's gonna bring a lot of people in. We could just get it extra clean and nice.
That's the only thing I can think of.
Okay, and then I see public comment, Ms. Tamara?
I just have a question. Is he supposed to be edging between the sidewalk and the curb? There's a lot of crabgrass and other things that are growing between the bricks and the sidewalk, and it's looking really shabby all up and down Avenue B.
It's all supposed to be edged, I believe it's once
Yeah,
a month.
that's in the
Right.
specifications,
Well-
once a month,
Mhm.
all over the district,
It's not happened
in quite some
in
time.
quite some time, if ever.
Where,
Avenue B
Avenue
there,
B.
it looks really straggly there,
In
like
front
in
of the
front of
new
Cal's.
In front of Cal's place
Uh-huh.
and up by White Kitchen, and there's a piece of clothing that's been laying there in the edge for longer than I want to touch it. So, when we, anyway, I just thought that was part of it.
All right, thank you. So, and the clothing there is on the sidewalk on B, Avenue B? as
Right,
well?
right up by the White Kitchen. But it just looks, I was showing new people around the other day, and I thought, it's terrible. I'll go get a little card and give you that.
Okay, all right, anything else? Okay, thank you all. And then, under new business, we have none, and under old business, we have none. And then we have our Novia Consulting Group projects, and our engineer is not here with us today either, Mr. Russell Large, but Courtney will help to report on that. And item 1, which is the Marine Street Revitalization project, we like a progress report. And
No, we are still waiting for the release of funds from DEO. That is supposed to happen this month. It has not happened yet, but we do expect it by the end of the month. And then Veterans Park, he says that he's coordinating with Duggar Excavating to begin the work. That Duggar Excavating is completing another project, and we'll move on to this project once that other project's complete.
I have a question or a comment about Veterans Park. I don't know if the other commissioners and Ms. Chisholm knows that Dan is conducting a title search. He's trying to get the title of that property cleared.
Well, we pull it up on the property appraiser's website. It's listed under American Legion, and not the American Legion that's in Lanark, the one, a post that they had in Carrabelle at one time. So, we did ask Dodge Title to do a title search, and then they could not find anything. I don't know how long the city's had it, or how long the American Legion had it, but they were going back and trying to research the American Legion and see if they could find something.
But we're just trying to get a clear title on it. And not real, I guess when Miss Bragdon made all of those improvements there, she did the wall, right? Built the wall and
And
put
the clock.
yeah, and then Mr. Amon donated the eagle and flag. So it was in the name of the Legion at that time.
As far as we know.
I contacted the Florida Department of American Legion, and they're the ones that told me that they had deeded it back to the city, so, I don't know.
Yeah, we have been told that, but we
Yeah.
haven't found any record of it.
So Dan's working on that.
Dan's
Yes, he
working on
has
it.
been working on that 2 months, maybe 3, for a good long time. They've been working on it. Dog Title is crazy, really. Who would have ever thought?
Yeah.
And so then Courtney and I started looking around. First I went to Welcome Park and, make sure that belongs to the city. But you have another one that, Dog Island.
Well, the
parking.
Dog Island Conservation District down at the end of Marine Street next to the city boat ramp, it shows on the property appraiser's website that it belongs to the city of Carrabelle, but we all know that it does not.
He's supposed to be getting that fixed.
Yeah, he was supposed to fix the mapping on that. So I don't know if it's just an error on the property appraiser's website, or, because, it says on their website that these documents may not be accurate. We used it a lot, so, but, he's looking into it, so we don't really know. I thought for sure he would have found that when we looked into the John Crumb stuff, that should have been a flag then, but.
All right. So that's all that Mr. Russell has right now, since we put Barefoot Lane on hold for a little bit. And so we'll move to our CRA board projects and the expense to budget here. This is the first one of this new year. And Miranda diligently worked at my persistence. She diligently worked and she actually has the actual correct bona fide balance forward. And I really appreciate her doing that. So you see our annual year-to-date incomes. We're just going to deal with the actual. Budget is what we guesstimated. But our actual income from the city, county portion is the $113,162, the tax increment city portion is $149,964. And do we understand why that's reduced from the amount that we budgeted? That is because when we budgeted, we thought we were going to use the rollback rate. And when we did not budget, when we finally did approve the city budget, we used below the rollback rate, a lower millage, so that makes our payment to the CRA lower. Good for the city side, bad for the CRA, but one hand washes the other. And then we carried forward just under $60,000 more than what we thought, and that was paying all of the paving projects and everything up to September the 30th. So that gives us $543,520.45 to operate with, and that's $49,865.45 more than we anticipated, because we didn't know exactly what our carry forward was going to be. And I'll remind you again, CRAs are not supposed to carry money forward, but we're trying to spend it as best we can and as smart as we can. Otherwise, we have to return the money that's left over to the taxing authorities that donate to the increment fund. I wanted to go ahead and draw your attention down here to the small equipment startup purchase. Miranda broke out, we did ourselves a worksheet here on salaries for CRA landscape maintenance employee. And she broke everything down. You're going to see there's new line items there like retirement, life and health, communications, workman's comp, and then equipment, maintenance and repairs of vehicles, and that type thing. So those have never been on this, these items have never been on this budget before. And if we hire someone, we'll need to have these items broke out just like they are on our regular budgets. And so she shows our budget for someone making, was it $13.50 an hour? Is that okay? The salary would be that amount there that you see, the $29,916, and then all of the total loaded labor cost is added in there. We talked about, that we would have to purchase some small equipment. This would be kind of like a one-time startup cost. And the small equipment support cost was let's see, she came out, she said that there was $15,000 left over out of the 100 that we budgeted. The original budget had 100,000, and so she put that 15,000 in the 40,000. That it really only needed to be $25,000 there, so there's a little extra money. We don't think we're going to spend that much, $40,000 on small equipment for your lawnmower and weed eaters and shovels and utility trailer, that type thing. So I just wanted to draw your attention there. And then down here under capital projects on the back side, you see repairs, resurface Gray Avenue. We did allocate $18,155 to Barefoot Lane, so that gives us a little bit of a good footing. Remember, Mr. Russell said it was $26,000 to do ground penetrating radar on that area. So maybe we decided last month that we would hold off to the first couple of months into the new year and see how that looks, our budget looks. And so at least we're not so bad off. We may be, looks like, I'm thinking we could put money to it to get that done, and at least then we'll be able to plan for next year to really repair that roadway in the next budget. So that's all I see there, and I know Courtney just sent this to you because they were off on Friday, so I wasn't able to work with Miranda on getting the actual amount carried forward.
Actually, I just printed it for them, so.
Yeah, so it's all new to you. But since we have this here, I will say if you add 50 cents to the maintenance salaries, that will add up. That will be like $1,040 more a year. Is that correct? And if you add $1, $2,080 a year. So if we decide to do that. And are there any other questions on this right now?
I don't have a question, but there was something that I would like to see us start thinking about, no action today, is, and I think I heard it mentioned from you ladies when y'all attended the training, and I've heard it mentioned from the attorney, don't know the details, but at the end of the year, looking at our CRA budget, when we may have an overage or a good balance forward, that we could designate some of that money to start going into an account to leverage grants for future growth and building along the riverfront on Marine Street. I have mentioned it several times over the last 4 or 5 years, but legally, ever how we can create that when we do have an overage, not saying that we're not going to spend our budget, but if we do, we start building an account for the future to do that.
Am I wrong, it can only be budgeted for 3-year projects for the next 3 years?
That's one thing we haven't done, you know.
But I'd like to see us do that, to take some action there and try to move forward on, and you know, I'm just grabbing something out of the sky. For example, the shortage on parking, being able to have an account and buy property down there and extend parking areas, whatever it may be. So,
As long as you can get a project that you hope you can get done in 3 years.
exactly.
And I did leave a placeholder, or we did, when we did the budget. We didn't, you know, we keep wanting to put money to the rehab of the old water plant,
That's
or
right.
C. But we didn't this year. We've got, we're doing a big project on the military flagpole display. But we did put money out of the American Rescue Plan. But here is a placeholder for next year. This is, you know, the Public Works building. If we don't get anything, and we really should start working on that.
Yeah.
Going and getting, you know, some bids on what we need to do on that. So we can get that money spent, so we can, you know maybe we need to set some money aside here for this, for the next year. And we've got some good money set aside now for the Marine Street CDBG here, 75,000.
That's a good example of what I'm looking at, is large ticket items that we can't really afford right out of our budget that we might be able to leverage against grants. So, anyway.
And the CDBG required 25,000 match, and we've got that with the 75 there. So, all right, so that's, any other comment? All right, on item 2, review of the recommended pay rate for the CRA district maintenance employee and supervisor, maintenance employee and supervisor. That's what supervisor is here.
I know we've discussed this in our city, maybe in our city commission meeting, maybe it was our CRA meeting last month, but we've had a little bit of discussion on this, but when the HR committee met, the HR committee felt like that was a really low pay for this job. And when you read the job description, there's a lot involved in it. So that was where this comes from. And then also whether or not we were going to give any pay increase to the supervisor. I think we believed that the last time we discussed this, that the supervisor would be the Streets and Roads Department. I think we all agreed on that. So that's what this item is for discussion.
Okay. I would like to say one thing. It's a big district, and if we went out for a regular professional maintenance crew, like crews you see around in Tallahassee, or the crews that they use at the Tallahassee CRA district, it's going to cost a lot of money to have a crew come down here 1 or 2 days a week. If you didn't want to hire a regular employee, it will cost a lot of money, much more than what we were paying for the small CRA district. Before we went with the landscaper, our contractor, our Streets and Roads Department did the CRA district. Then 1 or 2 years, I know maybe 2 years, the CRA supplemented the Streets and Roads budget with some money from the CRA. But then the accountant made us return, it made the city return that money back to the CRA budget because we were not getting log sheets to justify what was being paid from the CRA account to the general fund. And that was that way with all the departments. We supplemented every department except the water and sewer. So if we, is the supervisor, is it recommended that the supervisor get additional pay for supervising the CRA district?
It wasn't a vote, but it was part of the discussion from the committee was whether or not he would get an incentive for doing this. Dustin's here if you got any questions. I think what his concern is that it's adding on more to his job, that if he has to come to monthly meetings and he has to do reports for the CRA district, he's looking at it as a separate department.
I've got a question.
Okay.
Yeah, so the only question I really have is what's expected from the supervisor. You know, if I'm monthly reports, inventory, you know, maintenance, we gotta make sure these equipment's being maintenance. We gotta make sure it's inventory with property stickers on all of it, and then we gotta make sure the job's being done right. It's just whatever's expected. If there's no monthly report, then, you know, that's a little different. But I feel like with more responsibility, because now I'm already doing a monthly report, and I know what it takes to do that. And I've got to require an employee to do a daily and weekly log, so I can do the monthly reports every month to let y'all know what's going on within the CRA. So I just want to know really what's expected.
Okay, all right, that's a good question. I think as far as a monthly report, I think that if it ends up that there is a person, whoever it is, would come here themselves and make a report and let us talk to them. But we're just kicking it around right now.
Well, seems like I like to talk. So, and I'll repeat what I said at the last meeting. I feel like that the road and street superintendent is the best fit for the supervisor for this position. I feel like the roads and street supervisor and his staff have been performing a good majority of this work for quite some time already. I don't see that it's gonna add a substantial amount of work to the road and street supervisor beyond what he already does. Actually, an additional employee should take a little relief off from it. When you get an additional employee, that means you got someone doing additional work being performed. The incorporation of the report into monthly report, to me, that's not significant. Doesn't mean it's not a little bit of work, but it's not significant. Our other superintendents, if you will, or department heads within the city government supervise much more than 3 employees. And as far as a monthly report, I don't care how we do it. The mayor mentioned someone coming here. I don't have a issue with it either way. But Courtney will still continue, if the road and street superintendent is the supervisor of the operations during the day, the daily operations, Courtney will still be the CRA director. She can actually give a report from streets and roads superintendent. That's one way of looking at it. And there's a way of looking at it, like the mayor said, coming in and giving a report. But anyway, I'll get back to where I said, I don't feel like that it's a significant amount of additional work, and I could go on and give example. And just as another quick example, the average span of control within employment under supervision is 6 to 9 employees to one supervisor. That's the average span of control. And also, let me speak to the starting salary of the new employee. It's suggested that $13.50 is not enough. Actually, the starting salary won't be $13.50. It's going to be around $14.50 because they're going to be required to have inmate supervisors, which is going to increase their salary. So their starting salary will be around $14.50 because they are going to be required to have inmate supervision training. And over the next couple years, as we've been doing now for 2 years, we're adding about $1 an hour to people's salaries to get it up to the minimum wage and other fair pay standards. So we're still going to be doing that for the next couple of years. And I don't think that the CRA employee is going to be burdened any more than the standard streets and road super or employees. And I feel like those employees should not, I don't see a variation between the salaries of the CRA and the street and roads employees. That's just my opinion.
Can I say something?
Thank you.
Yes, certainly.
To keep less stress and workload off of Dustin, because it doesn't sound like we want to add to his salary, I do think it would be a good idea to have this employee do their own monthly reports, keep up with their own inventory and things like that, because it's like their own little bubble, and so they should know all this stuff anyway. So I think that would be, what do you think about that? Would that work best for you?
Yeah, I would definitely do that.
And I mean, I'm not sure what all the little things you have to do every month.
Yeah, it's not the additional work that I was more concerned with, I know, but the additional responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, you're putting more responsibility. I feel like if you're gonna do that, then you should compensate to put more responsibility on the supervisor. But if he does his own inventory, his own maintenance log, and I just make sure the work gets done, I told me and Courtney, I discussed that, and I was fine with that.
And that's a good suggestion, thank you, and good comments, thank you as well. I want to say too, we've got Miss Courtney and Keisha and Miranda and Courtney. They do a lot of work for the CRA.
Absolutely.
I mean, really, Miranda and I, she did a lot of work to try to get the number that I wanted her to get for our budget, and she did, and I'm thankful. And so they do a lot of work, and we haven't given them a merit increase or anything. All we do is smile and say, thank you, I appreciate everything you do. But that doesn't buy the macaroni and cheese, I know it. And we do appreciate the work. But you brought up this DOC certification, that's an additional funding. I don't, honestly, I agree with Commissioner Miller. I don't think that the employee would be any more burdened with work. It seems like a lot of work, but the specifications got very tedious and cumbersome because we needed to explain, you know, where Ms. Tamara just said, trim that grass, cut that grass out of the curb and out of the sidewalk cracks. And this is something special, heightened, that we do in the CRA district. But once they learn these little things that have to be done to keep it up very nice, like Commissioner Millender keeps his yard very nice, well maintained and edged, and you know, that's what we want our CRA district to look like if it can. Now, it's a big district, and it won't always look that way every day, but overall it should. So, you know, once they learn what is expected, that person, then it will just come down. And you keep a nice yard too,
Takes work. yeah.
Yes, I know,
Takes
but
work,
it
yeah.
takes work, but once you know what you gotta do, you do it.
You just do it, yeah.
Lucille does that.
Yeah. She does the flower beds. Yeah, I have to say.
And Keith, 2 summers, he dug out every ditch on the west
Oh.
side of Carrabelle, I think.
Stormwater management.
Yeah.
There you go.
I have wild chickens. I have to keep the debris out of the ditches.
And Dustin and I
That's a true
did
story,
discuss
whether believe it or
that,
not.
Wild kids,
Yeah.
wild kids.
that it looks like a lot, but this employee is gonna be 8 hours a day,
Yes.
5 days a week, and that they can get a lot done in an 8
And
hour
hopefully
day.
they'll have at least one extra, DOC inmate, hopefully.
I feel like you'll get a lot more done with a full-time employee.
And I want to say that the parks and, the rest of the city looks just as good as our district does, right? The core district, and it really should be looking even better, but, you're doing a good job throughout the city, and thank you.
We stay
But
busy.
Courtney can be a liaison to this person as well, just like we named some things here, got a comment from a shopkeeper that, the bushes need to be. You can continue to act as the liaison, as you did with Mr. Merrick and Mr. Messer, Myrick. So, it might take a little bit of getting used to, but it's, it'll come together in a few months.
I see it that way. I see it that way as Courtney just stated, this employee is not going, it's going to be 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And there's a lot of work can be done, and Dustin knows that. And one last comment, and I'll leave it alone. I looked over the job descriptions and what have you. There's details within that CRA plan that are more detailed. That thing has almost become cumbersome and overbearing. Bullet items on a position description, just like landscape maintenance. That's a bullet item on a position description, in my opinion, in my profession and the way I work. But then that supervisor applies the details of what's in that plan actually out on the ground. I see the position description being a little bit cumbersome, but I'm not complaining, I'm just saying.
Now, are you looking at that, as I sent it as the landscape maintenance plan to be a separate document.
That's correct.
It's just an attachment.
But just looking at over what we had with a contract employee, and it's pretty specific and detailed, and to me, that's what the supervisor is gonna work from. He's gonna actually get out there and tell them to cut that grass that's growing out in between the cracks of the sidewalk.
And I tried
He's
to
gonna detail
change
that
that,
out in the field.
that
In a
manual.
district that I didn't have to before.
I tried to make that manual more where litter's picked up on Tuesday and landscape's done on Thursday, and so that they're held to a day to do it. And that mowing's done the second week of the month, and edging's done the third week, so that we can kind of keep a schedule. Well, right now, we don't know what's being done when.
I guess what I'm trying to say is it looks complicated, but operational wise, when it starts flowing, it should flow well.
And actually, except for a few items, the Streets and Roads Department, they do that throughout the entire city.
Absolutely.
It just had to be just so
Absolutely.
laid out, every little, picking up a hand tool actually, and, and when to blow and how to blow, and it had to be, it was, and whether or not you can blow, but now, one thing we do in the CRA district, we like done regular, or I do anyway, is the sand out of the streets. And we've got, like Meridian comes down into 67, to get that piled up sand out of the street. I ask for it sometimes around in the city part, but not as often, because your district needs to be lifted up, a heightened service than what you provide throughout the city.
One thing that, I listened to the county commission meeting this morning, and one thing they touched on I've been thinking about for quite some time, and they touched on it finally this morning on inmates. If you send an inmate supervisor out there, Dustin sends one of his guys out there to get one inmate, you haven't gained a cotton picking thing. Because your employee's got to supervise that one inmate. It just took your regular employee off of the tractor or the lawnmower or whatever, or the brush truck. It just took him off of there because he's got to supervise that inmate.
Me and her, me
So
and
when you
Courtney,
get one inmate, you really haven't gained anything.
we have discussed that time and time again. And
County discussed that this morning.
They did, and I heard them say something that really surprised me, and I'll ask Dustin then on follow-up, is that they were getting approximately 40 inmates a day.
No.
Back maybe up to a year ago, and now they're struggling to get six or seven. And
we touched on that.
so how many inmates does it seem like the
One
city?
inmate per squad.
One inmate?
One inmate per man. So the labor, the inmate supervisor's having to do the work just as well and get out there with it, so.
I got a question.
Okay.
And I didn't mean to open up a can of worms here, but I have a question, Dustin.
Yeah.
And where they give you one inmate per squad. And like I said, when they give you one inmate, that takes your employee away from.
I lose 30 minutes every morning.
Oh, well, you might need to get on your, up here and talking to the microphone for the recording, Dustin.
So everybody can hear it.
We're a little bit relaxed here. Be glad you're not at a city commission meeting.
No,
Anyway, and the county again touched on that this morning, is instead of giving one inmate per employee to you in the mornings, and you know, that kind of eliminates your employee, because he's in.
It does.
And if you have two of your employees out there, it eliminates two of your employees, okay? Why not give two inmates to one employee?
Well, it works when you got two employees.
Well, I understand that. I'm not discounting that you don't have two employees right now.
But usually
But
that's
that's
how
the
we
point,
work
the
the
point
last
I'm
couple
making
weeks.
is why don't they just give you two inmates for one employee instead of two inmates per employee?
That would be a prison question. The reason I'm saying that is because I've sent one of my men out there to get both squads.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll do it, but most of the time they ship one of those, or the one that there are guys missing, say I got a supervisor missing. They'll move him to a squad over to the county where they didn't have a guy to fill that spot. That supervisor's been waiting on the spot. But I've got two spots here that's filled and it's permanent and they have to come out with mine. But if I'm missing a supervisor that day, they send his inmate usually to another that's already at work, been there waiting on an inmate, so that's what happens. So we're just down manpower. I've been yelling that for the last 3 years.
Now, when you get when a supervisor gets assigned an inmate, does that inmate have to stay with that supervisor all day? You can't take that inmate and bundle them up with one supervisor?
Used to, there was a way
Uh-huh.
back then, but now they're so short on inmates, like I said, if that supervisor's not coming to get the inmate that's assigned to him, then.
Can you, I don't want to say
Can one
it in
baby
public.
sit?
Justin and I had this conversation with Commissioner Walton yesterday, that he used to bring out a squad of 10, and Mr. Creamer used to bring out a squad of 10, and
We had
each one
8.
of our supervisors had 5, and now we're down.
All this happened when they had to close the work camp because there was not enough employees to
Yes.
run it.
And that's okay, but what I'm trying to do here is not to cut you off, but what I'm trying to do here is let's deal with what we have to work with right now.
No doubt.
And if they can give you more than one inmate for one inmate supervisor, that would be the way to go, because it's not taking your other employee off of your equipment.
I totally agree, and I've been doing that behind the scenes a little.
Get as much as you
Touch.
can.
It's way easier because then I got a heavy equipment operator now. I cut him loose. So he's running the tractors. That's what I've been doing. That's how we've been getting by, but legally, no, I can't. They won't do that.
Well, maybe we should approach Courtney, and I don't want to look at the mayor and point my finger, the warden, and have this discussion about that and see if there's a way that it could happen. I don't know.
So you're saying if the streets and roads has 3 employees, we got 3 employees, give us 3 inmates, one for each employee.
Give us as many as they'll give us, but
But-
let one inmate supervisor work on it, and not 3 inmate supervisors work.
Yes.
Yeah, well, and we've been doing that behind the scenes, that's how we've been operating, to be honest with you, I mean, that's the only way we could. Now, I've got 1 supervisor, so he's watching 2 inmates, but
Right.
we've been getting by doing that, by me, but, probably shouldn't say it on record, but that's what we've been doing. We've been getting by.
And as long as you can do that, your production rate will go
It's
much higher.
That's the only way we would be able to do it now.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, so what do we think then? Do we think we want to offer a higher rate of pay, or stay with what we have when we go out and advertise this? Now, we have to remember too, is that we have good benefits. They have good vacation accrual, 8 hours a month, 5 hours starting out. They have excellent insurance, family insurance, and holidays, you know, so they do
I have a question.
Okay.
So when you advertise this job, you want to advertise it at $13.50 or
Well, we won't advertise the rate of pay, we'll discuss that with the applicants as they come in.
Yeah,
But it would be $13.50 with the inmate incentive after they get certified.
so they will have to be able to have inmates that's certified and take inmates out. But that there is to feel way down too, so you do that. Anybody can't take those inmates
Yeah,
out that
That's
gate.
another
have to
thing.
meet a background.
They got to
And
pass
what we've done in the past is we've had the prison, if we have applicants, we've had the prison run them and make sure that they're eligible
Yeah.
before we hire.
You have to do an FDLE background check on them.
We do a small background check and just to secure.
And then they will be getting a pay raise. I mean, we're already a couple of months, by the time this happens, it may be 2 more months. And they'll be getting a pay raise in the next budget year, you know, so in 8 months, as Commissioner Miller mentioned, or even a probationary, but they're on probation for a year.
Yes.
And, you know, as our CRA district, the expanded district improves in value, there's gonna be more income, you know, you might be able, in the future, it depends on the job they're doing, you know, you might be able to increase that amount, or you might be able to hire another employee, and even, you know, lift it up more. I mean, really, have a beautiful district. But, you know, we're just trying to do the best we can now with what we have to work with.
Exactly, the cities, we, for years, used that inmate labor, and it's been nice, you know, but the last couple of years, last 3 years, we've seen.
And now, how about for setting up for the holiday on the harbor? How's that gonna work? Are you gonna have,
Just gonna have to go at it. I had talked to the lieutenant, the outside ground lieutenant, Birch, talked to him about it, he said he would try to help me make it good. So I'm in good terms with him, we talk on a pretty much weekly basis with the prison, so.
all right, and Dustin had mentioned that he's gonna go ahead before that next week, at the beginning of the week.
Next week, the 21st, Monday.
Yeah, put up the Christmas tree in Welcome Park and.
So that'll kind of help lower, I know that we have a lot of, it's always been a tradition to do the Christmas lights after Thanksgiving, which, you know, we have community civilians and people out, they get concerned, they want the Christmas lights before, so I'm gonna set up the Christmas tree the week before Thanksgiving, and it'll look good, and that should.
And then he'll start on his utility pole lights, then after Thanksgiving. So the lights haven't delivered yet?
No, they haven't been delivered. Miranda was checking on that this morning. They haven't even cashed the check that we sent to pay it. But we do have plenty of decorations, so even if they come in later, Dustin said it wouldn't be no problem to take one off of a pole and switch it out.
If we had to,
Yeah, but the area that you put them in now in Southeast 7th, that's in the CRA district.
I was talking to her about
Well, all
that
the way
now.
down to City Hall now, we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could put some more fixtures on, so eventually we'll get to that.
All right, that'd really be cheerful in years to come. Okay. Do we have anything else for Dustin then? We just want to move forward as planned. We'll look at the job description and have input on it for our commission meeting. Well, thank you, Dustin.
Yes, ma'am.
They got job descriptions, just a draft, and if y'all have any suggestions or want any changes, just let me know.
Okay, thank you for your input, Dustin.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
appreciate it. So that's it. Do we have any other items brought forward by the CRA board members?
I think we can get that.
Okay, I had talked about it and suggested that since our CRA meeting is so close to Christmas in December, that we cancel the Christmas meeting and have our next meeting on January the 17th. What do we think about that?
I agree. We usually don't have one in December.
Okay.
March the 17th.
March the
I agree
17th. You agree? This is our,
I make a motion.
okay, you want a motion not to have the meeting in
Yes.
December? Okay. All right.
That's
Yes,
what-
January
I'll put that
17th.
down
They
in my
didn't look at your
phenomenon.
stuff.
Okay, do we have a second for that?
I'll second.
Okay. Okay, so Keisha, that's to cancel the December 20th CRA meeting. And that's by Commissioner Allen. Motion made by Commissioner Calvin Allen, second by Commissioner Brown. Is there any discussion? Okay. So this is our last formal meeting with Commissioner Allen.
That's right.
Yeah. You're gonna come to our swearing-in ceremony on Thursday night?
Oh, yes, I will.
Okay, all right, well, very good. We'll look forward to seeing you then as
And
well.
I've been trying to come up with some kind of nice flowing speech. It didn't flow right.
Well, maybe you could get it worked out.
I woke up at 5 o'clock this morning and said, you know, how can I tell bye? But I really have enjoyed working with the city and I've come to love all of you guys for the work that you've done and put in. And especially our mayor here, I know she works overtime most of the time to get all this stuff together. You see her packet here while she works from. That didn't just fall in place. I can see how much work that was. And I know Keisha and Courtney and all of you all just have done a tremendous job for this city. And I was glad to be a part of it for that period. And look forward to seeing more progress here. And I'll just be out there hollering at you. You're on the other side of the fence now.
Yeah, when we don't do right, come stand over there.
Yeah.
So that flowed good. That was a good rehearsal. We'll look forward to hearing that and more on Thursday.
Is that right?
Yes.
Well, actually, I didn't rehearse that.
It's better when it falls off the cuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got problems lately, as part of old age, but remembering people's names. And I woke up at about 2 o'clock this morning trying to remember the name of the fellow that sat right beside me in the commission meetings.
There's been so many of them. You've
Raise
been
your
here so
hands.
long.
Well, no, this one's been here a long time too.
Not Frank Mathis.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Frank
I could
Mathis.
not think of Frank Mathis's name to save my life.
How do you forget Frank Matt?
He and I were, I mean, we were right on top on everything just about.
Yeah.
And to say I couldn't remember his name. And it's sort of like I asked Tamara the other day, I said, what's the name of that fellow that does so and so and so? And she says, I thought you could remember names. I said, well, I used to could, but why do you think I call you Honey now? It's been a great ride, and I appreciate all of your support. And I feel like we've done a good job, and I think you'll continue. And if you have anything you need to know, holler at me and I'll try to help out. I'll be there for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'd say we just all kiss, but then we got a couple others there, I don't want to be kissing on.
Do you want a motion to adjourn? Would you like to do that?
I'll make a motion to
Okay.
adjourn this meeting.
Okay, and do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All right, and that's by Commissioner Allen, second by Commissioner Walden. Any further discussion?
I have none.
All right. Okay then, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
And that motion carries, Mr. Allen. Thank you.